Hi everyone, this is Georgia from iMore and welcome to our weekly show focused on everything iPad and iPhone, from news and views to help and how-tos. This is iPhone and iPad Live. It's March 14th, 2012, and joining me tonight is the host of Iterate and CIO of Nickelfish, Seth.
Hey Georgia, how are you?
I'm good. I'm doing well. Are you excited, Seth?
I am very excited. My vocal tone might betray it, but I'm actually chomping at the bit, yes.
Yes, well, if I was psychoanalyzing you, I might say differently, but since I'm not, let's also introduce the editor-in-chief of iMore, Rene.
Psychoanalyze, try diagnosing me why, Georgia. It wasn't your iPad that brutally died.
So let's get on to this.
No iced tea fans in the podcast? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to urban wrap up the event.
You're just too hip for us.
What do you got for me, Georgia? Let's get this thing done. I've got an iPad coming.
We have an iPad. iPad is incoming for the US, Canada, and how many other places, Rene?
There's 12 countries. This is crazy. So let me start off with the craziness that is this iPad launch.
I sense a rant.
No, it's not a rant. It's just insane. Last year, it was, I think, US only for a month, and then it slowly trickled out to other countries over the course of several months, and they kept saying that it was just too hard to make the displays. They were constrained by the amount of regular size displays they can make. This year, they're making a Retina display, stupid dense Retina display, unlike anything Earth has seen before. And not only that, they're shipping it 9 days after they announced it to 12 countries/regions, and then a week later, 25 more countries. Who the hell is this Tim Cook guy anyway? Is he Cobra Commander?
Seth, do you expect a whole bunch of shortages because of this? They had a hard time just launching it in like the US.
I don't know. I think if they're bold enough to launch this many countries all at the same time, I think they've probably got a lock on their production. And of course there'll be a limit to that first run, but I think they've stocked up. They've made a lot more than they have in the past. I think they're prepared for the first push.
I think that the last thing that Apple wants, especially with Tim Cook at the helm, is a failure to launch issue. So if they're able to do it, we will see. But again, shortages are kind of good press for them.
Well, that's the thing. So this is the thing. This is where I'm going to rant. Everyone is saying such utter stupidity about Tim Cook this week. It's like, like Apple's lost it. They did this differently. And it turns out it's exactly what they've done for the last 5 years. Tim Cook is the one that let them make the iPad and get it out. He's the logistics guy. He's the operations guy. Steve Jobs was a product guy. The product's been done. This right now is what Tim Cook does best. So anyone looking at Apple and saying, oh, I wonder if Tim Cook can... No. Worry about Tim Cook making a better iPad 4. That's going to be the problem. Tim Cook getting this one out the door is cake.
Well, you say cake. I guess we'll find out on Friday how easy it is to launch and how large the demand is. I guess in the end, it depends on what they think the demand for the third version of the iPad will be. See how I got around dealing with the new iPad thing?
The new iPad? Are you getting the new iPad, Georgia?
I will. I will be lining up, and also, if I may state, we will be giving away t-shirts.
Ooh, hold it higher. These are special. These aren't just t-shirts. These are special edition t-shirts we only made for the iPad launch. And after that, like Disney cartoons are going to go back in the vault. And they got a retro. If you're not watching, if you're listening to the podcast, we do the podcast both, in iTunes and RSS via audio, and we do it in YouTube and on iTunes and RSS via video. And Georgia is holding up a rainbow-hued iMore logo, an homage.
Oh, cute.
It's a retina. It's a retinized iPad logo.
Yes. So come down, meet us live, and you will. Maybe get a chance to grab one of these babies. They're beautiful. Rene, I love the logo. It's stunning.
Oh, thank you. And we also have stickers. And you can...
I love the stickers.
We're going to be giving these out in Montreal. Liana's going to be giving them out somewhere in the Silicon Valley area. Kevin Michalik and Gary blanking now. I apologize. Gary Mazzo, I apologize, Gary. Are going to be giving them out in Miami. If you're not in one of those areas, you can go to imore.com and get your own. So they will be available for a week or so still.
Yeah, they're very cute. They're very cute. So let's go to Rene. You did your own editor's desk. I love these. I enjoy reading them.
I stole them from Phil Nickinson,
well,
but I'm enjoying them.
It's a lot of fun to read. You've gotten a lot of great press on them. So yeah, break it down for us, Rene. What was this editor's desk post about?
I don't want to get too deep into it because we actually have a lot of the links pulled out in the show further down. But it was just, setting the stage for what we're going to be doing this week with our iPad coverage. I talked a little bit about privacy, but I think we'll save that for next week because we've got so much iPad to do. And I broke something out in an editorial called Beatable. There was this article that went around saying that the iPad was unbeatable. And I kind of wanted to retort that. It's kind of like Samuel Jackson with a tasty burger. I thought that idea is very counter Apple. Apple has been doing so well lately because, like Rocky in Rocky 3, they were beat so badly by Microsoft in the opening match that they know they're beatable. They've tasted utter humiliating defeat. And now they are so fearful of that they're always trying to prove every year that they can beat themselves. It's like Steve Jobs said in that famous Stanford address, once you know you're dying, you're just standing there naked. Nothing else is important. You have an awesome clarity. And I think Apple got that when they got beaten really badly by Microsoft. They got that idea that they're not unstoppable, that they have to be very careful or someone will overtake them.
That's a very good point. So we will be heading down to the retail stores. For us, it's going to be 8 a.m. Friday, March 16th. Is it that same time for everyone?
Local time, yes. Wherever your local time is, it's 8 a.m.
Now, Rene, you said something different, that some stores may open early.
So if your Apple store is like an Apple store unto itself, it's 8 a.m. Some malls might have different regulations depending on the area, and Apple will have to negotiate with the mall. But we haven't heard of any actual stores having a different time yet. Awesome. So if your Apple store isn't a mall, I would check with them. I'd call them tomorrow and just make sure you know when they're opening. But otherwise, I think you're safely set.
Okay, let's ask the biggest question. And it comes down to, should people get the new iPad? Well, Seth, you waited one version of the iPad to get yours. So let me ask you, what should people use to decide if they should get the new iPad or not?
Well, I skipped the iPad 2 because I didn't feel that just a faster iPad was worth the upgrade at that point, because I really wanted, at that point when the iPad 2 came out, we already had the iPhone 4, and I was really hoping for a Retina display. We didn't get one, and so I couldn't see myself spending the money knowing that there would probably be a Retina display with the next one on the iPad 2. And everybody said, you're crazy, it's so much faster, it's so much better. For the things that I do with my iPad, I don't play a ton of games. I do a lot of reading. I do a lot of movies, things like that. Those things work really well on the original iPad. However, now that there's a Retina display, that's kind of like my main incentive for upgrading. That's what I was waiting for, because things like reading are going to be so much better. Things like print and pictures are going to look so much better on that display as they do on the phone. I mean, I read entire books on, my iPhone 4S, and I never would have even attempted that with a 3GS, just because I knew that I would have, fatigued from looking at that display. So the display upgrade for me is probably the biggest selling point. I think that all the other things, that are contained therein are great. If you're asking what I would tell someone specifically, I would say, if you're in my shoes and you have a first gen and you skip the second gen, now's the time to make the jump, because it's going to be obviously a very long time before the next one. And this is a very solid upgrade from the first one. If you have the second one, I would say, if you feel the need to have the latest and greatest, go for it. If you think that you won't really need the Retina display, that's cool too. The iPad 2 is still a very capable and able device to do pretty much whatever you're going to do with it. But for me, it was, this was what I was waiting for. So I'm definitely pulling the trigger on it.
So Rene, so Seth says pretty much depending on what your capabilities are, what you need from the iPad, and if you've upgraded or not. So since you skipped one, this is like a huge upgrade and for an amazing price. $4.99 is really cheap. By the way, Rene, I love the picture that you used for this.
So this is all, I should say, this is all in our buyer's guide. If you go to imore.com/iPad, we have a complete buyer's guide, and we're going to go through a lot of that on the show.
So what do you think, Rene?
So here's my take on it. If you don't have a tablet, the iPad 3 is a fantastic tablet to get. Now, you can maybe make an argument that a cheap tablet like a $199 Amazon Kindle Fire, or even better, a BlackBerry Playbook, which is more powerful for the same price, is better. And if you're budget conscious, if your primary concern is saving money, maybe that's true. But the iPad 3 is just exactly what you said, Georgia. It's so much technology, the Retina display, the option for an LTE 4G radio, which is as fast as most people's home internet connection, the 5-megapixel camera. I mean, the camera on the iPad 2 is frankly a joke. It's almost worse than not having a camera. So if picture taking is anything that you want to do, it's utterly fantastic. And if you're a gamer, that A5X chipset is a quad core. It's 4 times at least faster. So I think if you have a pain point, if you're either brand new to the iPad, or you're an iPad 1 owner like Seth said, or you have a pain point with the iPad 2, something about it just irks you, I think the iPad 3 is the new iPad is an awesome upgrade.
Right. So if budget is a huge issue, the second iPad, as Seth already mentioned, is exceptionally comparable and a great device. If you're looking for, applications, well, the App Store can't really be beaten, or even like no one can really touch, a light to the amount of applications that you'd be able to get from that. If you're only looking for something that's an ebook reader, then maybe you would rather head down to the Kindle and deal with it in that way.
And that's an important point too. And it's more like the iPhone has a lot more apps than any other phone, but it's not that big a deal. But on the iPad, Apple has so many more tablet apps. A lot of other platforms don't have tablet apps. They have big smartphone apps, which really aren't the same thing. If you're interested in tablet apps, which are a whole new class of software, the difference is just, it's ridiculous. It's like
right,
tens of thousands to hundreds.
Right. It's a tablet, but it is not actually, it's not as versatile. If you're going to just do it for reading and, shopping.
The Kindle Fire is versatile, but it's mostly a front end for Amazon's store. So you're running Android apps, Android games, and buying Amazon content. But again, they're mostly big smartphone apps rather than tablet optimized apps.
Right, which was really looked up.
And also, sorry, before I continue, the Amazon is mostly only useful in the US. So if you're outside the US, the Kindle Fire is not a good option for you.
Okay, what about the Playbook? Is it a viable option? Does it really compare to the third version of the iPad?
If you want to save money, it's a much better choice for more people than the Kindle Fire, but it doesn't have a lot of apps yet. It's uncertain what its future is, but it's a great device, fast, very portable. If size matter, if you want a small size. But the same thing holds true for netbooks. I mean, like a netbook might be a better choice for some people, but I think it's your 80-20 rule, Georgia. For 80% of the people, 80% of the time, for 80% of the things, the iPad is going to be the best choice.
And more people are happy. They're not. There's less of a buyer's remorse with the iPad than there is with, say, the Playbook or even the Kindle.
Yeah, or other tablets. I think you pretty much lump all of them in there at this point.
Right. I don't even count the other ones. I don't know if they even exist.
They do, and they're good for specialized people. But I mean, unless if you want the easiest way to say it, if you don't want an iPad, you usually know it. And if you do want another tablet, you usually have a very specific reason, and you already know you want that tablet instead. If you're undecided, if you're not sure, most of the time you'll be better off with an iPad.
Yeah, I would.
I'm
going to
ask the next big question for those that are looking to buy the iPad, and I'm going to ask this to you, Seth. AT&T versus Verizon.
That's a little tricky because I mean that really depends more on your location than anything else, and obviously by location I mean both in North America and if you're not in North America, because I believe now don't correct me if I'm wrong. The AT&T one can be used outside the U.S.
It can be used in Canada. So far, only the U.S. and Canada.
In Canada. Okay. Well, then forget what I said about being outside North America, and let's just focus on that. If Verizon is better in your area, obviously that's going to be a better move for you. If AT&T is better, the same. I think that's at some point, depending on where you are, it's splitting hairs. But I think also that I know right now, currently, AT&T's maximum speed is higher than Verizon's LTE, if I'm remembering correctly. And the other thing is that both of them offer the wireless hotspot capability, but I think AT&T has not yet officially committed to it. They're still kind
Yes.
of debating what they're doing with it. So
Yes.
you'll have faster speeds, but not that ability to do the hotspot,
And also,
possibly at launch.
Verizon
Now-
is in way more places than AT&T. AT&T's deployment is much smaller than Verizon's.
That's
So
very
if the interesting thing for me is that Verizon's LTE has been going down a lot for Android users, so it's going to be interesting to see when iPad users hit that network.
Now, Rene, can you buy, say, can you buy the iPad? Do you have to make the choice beforehand, and can you switch? Can you use an iPad on AT&T and then switch to Verizon, or once you buy it, are you stuck?
You are stuck. Verizon does not want to have multi-function devices on their network. They want the Verizon iPad to only work on Verizon. So if you buy a Verizon iPad, you're stuck on Verizon. If you buy an AT&T iPad, you can use it on AT&T or Rogers, Telus, or Bell in Canada, and theoretically maybe some other countries later on.
So really what we're going to see is a lot of people on Craigslist saying, listen, I want to switch my AT&T iPad for a Verizon version.
I don't think so. I think what will happen is first of all, LTE coverage is not very good. It's getting better, but it's not very good. A Verizon iPad will be great on LTE, but the minute you leave LTE, you're stuck on CDMA, which is 3 megabits per second. An AT&T iPad, if you leave LTE, you're still on HSPA, which can be 14, maybe 24, maybe even faster. It'll theoretically go up to 42 megabits per second. So overall, it's a much more flexible, but the same rule still applies. Verizon will be more reliable where it exists, and AT&T will be faster if you can get a signal.
Right.
Do you think that speed, though, because you're not going to be, we don't have to worry about, say, dropped calls on the iPad, maybe Skype so, but do you think that that's actually going to make much of a difference? Like, does that really factor in with an iPad versus with a phone?
Well, I mean, Verizon's so far ahead in LTE that if you really want to be on LTE, there's a much better chance of Verizon. The whole thing is, it depends entirely on your area. Ask your neighbor. If you have a friend with an LTE Android phone or any LTE rocket stick, ask them what they're using around your work, around your school, around your home, the places that you are. Find out what works best and go for that, because that'll make you happiest.
And it might not be the same as what you would have with your phone, because you're not really worrying about drop calls. You don't perhaps care much about that. You wouldn't be using that, and it wouldn't be.
Well, they're different networks anyway. I mean, voice, like, you're absolutely right. There's just no voice network on an iPad, so you only have to worry about data.
Yeah, and that's all that matters. So I would say whichever place has the greatest speed, it's not going to be the same thing. And odds are, if you do, if you're Skyping, it's not going to be a make or break call.
Yeah.
So I can see that some people might have, be on with one with AT&T and something else with Verizon. Are they going to give people that double up any bonuses, any bundles?
No, not that we know of.
You see?
And tethering will cost you, yeah.
Okay. Gigage.
No, it's giga. I've watched Back to the Future. It's a gigabyte.
Guys, it's
16,
GBs.
32, or 64. Might be the crazy person. I'm thinking 16.
Oh.
Am I crazy?
Yes.
I love that you say that so easily.
I originally had a 64 gigabyte, 32 or 64, I forget. It was stolen, and I replaced it just to save some money because I knew the third generation iPad was coming. I replaced it with a 16 gigabyte one, and I tried to install iPhoto, and I ran out of room, and I don't have that much on it. I mean, Infinity Blade is a gigabyte. I have some videos, some movies, some music. I have very little on, and I'm already close to full. And I don't need that stress. I think it's much better, especially when you consider 1080p movies that you'll be able to use on the new iPad, games that are going to be bigger for Retina display. Like, Infinity Blade could be 3 gigs, Georgia.
Yeah, okay, I can go for the games. And yes, as you know, I have 100,000 photos, but I don't store them on my iPad. That's for my phone, because I don't take pictures with my iPad. I don't even watch movies on my iPad. That's something that I'll do from Netflix or Apple TV.
But if you want to go with a family on vacation and load it up with movies?
No, not usually. Sometimes, every once in a while. So you think that 32 would be the best? Well, it's the best jump for cost effectiveness.
Yeah, you did the math. What did the math work out to be?
Oh, good gosh.
If you don't have it in front of you, I pulled it up. I can go through it quick.
Perfect. Okay, here we go. It is $31.19 for the 16.
This is price per gigabyte. If you break down how much you're getting per gigabyte for the price.
And the price jump between that per gig for the 32 is 18. And so that's the largest jump, because when you go from 32 to 64, it's $10.92
a gig.
So yeah, it's a huge amount of, like, if you're just dealing with cost effectiveness, the 32 gig would be much more cost effective. But I don't know if I need that.
I'm gonna defer to Seth, but I always think 32 is the sweet spot.
Okay, Seth?
Yeah,
Am I crazy?
No, you're not. My original iPad was a 64 gig Wi-Fi, and I found that I did not fill the 64 gigs ever. And at some point, I wanted to get a 3G iPad, so I ended up switching that out for, I believe it was a 32 gig with 3G. And that one I also never really filled, but it was enough if I did take a trip to throw quite a few movies and TV shows and things like that on there. And like you, Georgia, I don't really store pictures on that device. And aside from, like, at the time, Navigon was probably the biggest app I had on there. And since they've released their update, you don't even have to download the full, 2 gig package or whatever it was. It was, really big. I don't have a lot of big games. If I put games on there, they're generally, probably under 500 megs. I don't really play a lot of those really graphic intensive games. I generally skew towards more like 8-bitty kind of, retro things. So I think 32 is the sweet spot, definitely. And I think you can get away with 16 if all you're really doing is running apps. But as soon as you start adding media to it, I think that's going to evaporate quickly. Because remember, it's not really 16. You end up with what, like 14.6 or something.
Yeah.
And then you start adding stuff to it. And before you know it, you're probably hitting your upper limit. And 64, unless you're like a heavy, like media person, like throwing movies on there and keeping them on there, and you're going to shoot a ton of HD video with that camera, which, it's unlikely in most cases. I think 32 is the one to go with.
Yeah, I think that you're actually convincing me. Because as George Lim had mentioned and Rene had said before, if you're dealing with like Retina apps, they are going to take a lot more space. And I am one of the people that will play Infinity Blade and other games that are there. Usually I delete games once I'm done, but some games I choose to keep because I'm enjoying them and I don't want to feel like constrained with that. And every once in a while I might put something in there. I might even try to take some video just because it would be interesting. So, I think I'm going to be spending a little bit more at the Apple Store on Friday.
It's $100 more for double the size.
Yeah. I feel like the 16 gig is for the people who are only going to do like email and web browsing and a handful of apps. And then the 32 is for everyone else. And then the 64 is for like people who really need the space.
Yeah, I agree. I concur.
Okay, so I buy 64. I take it home and I realize, oh my God, I made a huge mistake. Rene, are there any options?
Yeah, or either way, like you buy 16, you take it home and suddenly you're out of space already. I mean, most stores have a return period. You might have trouble finding one, but they usually have some you can swap out. So if you do buy, it's sort of two things. You can always exchange it. Most stores have an exchange period. You can also use, if you buy...
It's different than a lot of other, things that you purchase. So that's nice.
Yeah. So, it's consumer electronics. You usually have 7 days, 14 days. Depends on where you live. Some places have 30 days. It just depends on the jurisdiction. You can also try to use online storage like iCloud. You can have music in the cloud and re-download it when you want it. Re-download TV shows or movies. You can use Dropbox to store your files. It's not a perfect solution because you'll always have to wait and always have to use data to swap stuff on and swap stuff off. But if for some reason, it's 6 months out and you're having problems, you can start looking at online solutions.
Yeah, I have two things to add to that. One is something to keep in mind is, to my understanding, the 16 gigs always seem to sell the most. So if you're thinking about getting a 16 gig and you're not sure, I would say get that first because you can probably go back and return it more easily for a 32 or a 64, probably almost definitely for a 64. The 16 gigs seems to sell out more than the other ones. If you go with a 64 and decide you want a 16, you may be waiting to get one. The other thing is what Rene was talking about, cloud storage. that's another reason why I don't feel like I need the really, really big stuff, because I use the subsonic streaming for my stuff at home. I'm really invested in Dropbox. I have photos and things like that shared from my home computer that I can access. So I'm really I'm into that workflow. So that's why I always, kind of opt for less storage myself.
Yeah, agreed. Again, damn it.
Okay, here we go. Rene?
Yes.
You're getting what color?
So the thing with me, and I might be an edge case, is because every year I get an iPad, I always swap colors. So my iPad 1 is black, my iPad 2 is white, and my third generation iPad is going to go to be black again, just so I can easily, know which one is which with a glance. But I'm an unusual edge case. A lot of people, they have other concerns. For example, some people think that black, if they're watching a movie, black just disappears and they're not distracted, but white is always kind of glaring at them. Or they're worried that white will discolor, or that black is too smudgy. So it really depends what your pet peeves are and like what annoys you when you look at something.
Yeah, I did notice that as well, that black, you notice the smudges much more. The white, though, you notice dirt much more.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about, smudge marks with your fingers as much. Seth?
I love the white devices. I love them. Like every time I handle one and look at them, I think they're just gorgeous. But I always get black, because I feel like if I have the white one, I'm gonna, especially with the phone, I see the edges of the screen, and I see not just the edges of the device, but the edges of the screen against the device, and I feel more constrained than I do with the black one, because I feel like the black going edge to edge, it just kind of, it does for me, it falls away. And I do the same thing with the iPad. I love the white ones, but I always buy black.
Okay, and myself, with my superficialness, I bought the iPad 2 in white.
Why, Georgia?
I wanted people...
She...
Oh, so superficial.
Go ahead, say it.
Because I wanted people to know that I had the iPad 2. I know, it's so...
Scratch Georgia's
bad.
surface, and what do you find?
More surface.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry, but it's true. So I got it white. I'll be getting it in black this time. And I'm thinking 32. Someone had asked Rene about getting Apple Care. I think this is a really good question and something that people don't know much about. And you are, quite the authority on it. So can you tell us what Apple Care offers?
So, I mean, there's also different kinds of Apple Care now. It used to be you can get no Apple Care or Apple Care. Now they have Apple Care Plus as well. So basically, no Apple Care means you just buy the thing and you have, I believe it's still a 1-year warranty. And Apple's very good with warranties. If you go into an Apple store, there's a genius there. If you're like a normal person, they'll go out of their way to help you with any problem you have. If you go in there yelling and screaming, you might have a different reaction. But if you're like a fairly decent person, talk to them nicely, they'll go out of their way. They'll almost kill themselves to help you. But after that 1 year, you'll start having to pay for stuff. The Apple Care extends that to, I think, 2 years for an iPad. And the Apple Care Plus will actually cover you for not fully, but part of the cost if you damage your iPad. If it's not just a faulty iPad, but if you're the cause of the problem. It's almost like a quasi insurance policy.
And have you used the Apple Care, and is it worth it? Does it cover you for things that, like say you're within the first year? Because again, I'm going to be buying another iPad every year, probably. So I don't truly need to go for the second year on top of it. Plus, most Apple products work the way that they should. But does it also cover me for things that, my regular care on Apple would not cover me for?
The Apple Care Plus does. I mean, it covers you for damage to the device, which regular Apple Care doesn't.
If I take an ice pick to the screen of my phone.
Yeah, so I mean, like think of it like insurance. So the regular Apple, I always get Apple Care just because I've had to use it so much. Like I've had my iPhone and my iPad swapped out 2 or 3 times. Sometimes it's speaker stopped working or the home button stopped working. Or there was, and this is an edge case, I actually had my iPhone hit by fireworks on New Year's and the screen was pockmarked. And I took it in and they didn't have to. They could have charged me for a screen and they just swapped it for a new device and gave me a stern lecture about taking better care of my property. And that was under regular care. I have Apple Care on it, but that was still within the year. But I've had my iPhone 4 swapped out recently and that's over 2 years old. So I always think it's worth it. It's $500. It's maybe $800 for the one that you're buying. Apple Care is not that expensive. I think it's $70 or something. I almost always default to get it.
Someone was trying to assassinate Rene. Everyone's asking how that would even happen.
No, I was at a fireworks event. One of the fireworks went a little bit astray and ended up smashing into me, and my jacket took part of the brunt, and my iPhone took the rest of it, unfortunately.
He works for the CIA, but he just cannot speak about these things.
Yeah.
I never get Apple Care or really any type of extra like Best Buy type of thing. I would for something like that's a longer use for me. So my MacBook Pro Apple Care is something that I have for that. But again, for my iPad, I don't really see the use for it. It's exceptionally efficient within the first year is when I'm going to probably bust it up and then I'm going to have a new one. So for me, not truly worth it. Seth?
Yeah.
I used to buy Apple Care for my machines way back when, like, in 2002, 2003, like when I spent a lot for a desktop, back when I had discretionary funds to buy $3,000 worth of Mac Tower and things like that. Now I generally don't. I don't because I tend to upgrade my stuff really frequently, especially mobile devices. And with laptops, we have so many in the office that it's if one goes down, there's probably another one I could use.
But would you tell your mom to get it or not, Seth? Because we're edge cases. We're not normal people.
No, that's a good point. I would probably say it's worth the money. I mean, let's just say this. Of all of the possible extended warranty type products you can buy, I think very strongly that Apple Care is definitely worth the money and definitely worth the investment and not anything to like worry about, because Apple has incredible service and really great hardware, but when things go wrong, you don't even concern yourself with it at all.
Yeah.
Like they're so good with Apple Care. It's like you just bring it in and they're like, here, just what? Don't even give it another thought. We'll take care of the whole thing. And
it's an anti-stress policy.
That's exactly it. If you don't want to worry about it at all, it's definitely worth it.
Georgia, your parents, would you tell them to get Apple Care or no?
No.
No? Okay.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't actually, because they're exceptionally good. I would have more chance of getting it for myself than I would for them, because I'm not really good with my technology. They're exceptionally careful with it. They wouldn't use it very much and or break it. For, again, Apple Care, because it gives such good service. And for something that I'm going to keep if you're going to keep this iPad and not upgrade it within a year and want to keep it for 3 and or 4 years, so you want it to be in its best, you want to make sure that you're making sure that if there's any nicks, you're going to exchange it. Because I won't. I'd be like, it's just nicked. It's not a big deal. Then, you're going to keep it in the best quality that you can. Within 2 years, you make sure that you get it fixed up. It's all looking good. You've taken care of it. It's worthwhile to have it.
Nice.
So if people are now looking to sell their old iPad, what ways should they deal with that? What is the best way to sell something like this? Again, it would have been the best thing probably to sell it before the iPad 2 has dropped $100, because now you're not going to make as much off of it. But say that you...
Well, hold on. It's only the 16 gigabyte one that's dropped $100. If you have a 16 gigabyte iPad to sell, you're probably a little ticked. But if you have 32, 64, you might still have some value there.
What are the difference between...
True.
Yeah. So what would be, if you were selling it, Rene, how would you sell yours? Besides just saying on the site, I'm selling my iPad.
So we wrote up a whole article on this, and there's various ways depending on your comfort level. Allie always suggests that you do it in person, because Allie does this a lot, and it's very hard to detect water damage or damage inside an iPad when you buy it. So if you're there actually physically, you can test it, turn it on. She would take out a flashlight, look at the little sensors to see if there's been water damage. So if stuff like Craigslist, or the best thing is always family or friends. If there's someone that if someone in your family or friends knows someone who wants an iPad, just get a fair assessment of its value and try and sell it directly. Craigslist is good too, and we have tips on how to, do safe and secure Craigslist transactions. If you want to do it over the internet, but you don't trust eBay, there's stuff like Gazelle. A lot of stores have trade-in policies now. Apple sometimes has trade-in policies. I would examine those as sort of like trusted online things. And if you really, if you're kind of adventurous, if you don't mind trying your luck, eBay will sometimes get you more money, although there is a little more risk involved.
I don't think that I would trust buying anything that was technological on eBay just because of the worry that it's going to be an iPad that isn't going to work. It isn't going to work properly. They've mistreated
Or
it.
the person's giving you fake money. I mean, if you're selling it, they could give you a bad. I mean, there's a lot of ways to get cheated online, so it's
Well,
better to
around
be
there, I
careful.
guess you could go from the way of PayPal, but still, I don't think that I would feel comfortable buying something from eBay or Craigslist. I would want, unless I could actually go and test it out and take a look at it before I actually purchased it.
So you know what I want to know though, because it's getting on in the show, and this has been my burning question. I want to know what everybody's actually going to get.
Well, let's take a peek at what our polls state. 1 second, let's take a peek at these results.
What are you getting, Georgia? While you're looking, what are you going to get? Have you changed your mind now?
Yeah, I think I have. I think I'm thinking about getting the 32 just because of the Retina and how many the applications that I'll be buying will be, I'm going to be getting Infinity Blade, whatever.
Wi-Fi, or are you going to get a 4G model?
I'm not going to be taking my iPad out. I'm not going to get data for it because I don't ever take my iPad away. If I travel, I take my Air. So I'm not going to need data, and I wouldn't use it for that. Actually paying data kind of angers me, period. So yeah,
32 gigabyte black Wi-Fi only.
That's it.
Seth?
That's my model.
You're
That's
getting the
one.
exact same thing as Georgia.
Exact same thing, but I decided first.
Oh, so she's the copycat.
Right.
I am
No,
not
fair.
decided yet between 32 and 64. I'm thinking about 64 just because I'll never ever have to worry about storage. I'm going black because my iPad 2 was white, and I'm getting an LTE one. But I have not decided between Rogers and maybe TELUS yet. Simon Sage, our editor at large, said that TELUS has the best deal. But I have my stuff currently on Rogers, so I'm gonna look and decide on the
So
plan.
Rene, how do you use your iPad? Do you take it out with
Oh
you?
yeah, I take it. I tend, because I'm a blogger. I work at home all day. I hate being stuck at home all day, so I will go to coffee shops and other places and work there for a while, and not having to worry. Or I'll
But
take.
they all have Wi-Fi there. So are you actually making use of your data? How much data do you even use on your iPad?
Oh, I
a month
use.
with it?
Well, also, like, if I go somewhere. So, for example, I live in Canada, so this is a bigger concern than it is in the U.S. A lot of homes don't have very good or very much internet. Like my mom, for a long time, was paying a lot for 1 gigabyte of internet. I think now she has 2 or 5, but it's not a lot. That's like one computer system update sometimes. And if I'm at her place and I want to watch Netflix, I don't want to use up her data. I'll just stream it over my iPad. So, I mean, if for me, I have it with me all the time and I use it a lot. It's absolutely worth it. And if I can tether to that and it's got LTE, oh, holy smokes. That's all I'm going to say. I was getting 45 megabits per second down at Starbucks on an LTE stick. I can't wait to use that.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Well, and it's pretty much almost an even split between everything.
Oh, you asked the iMore Nation, did you?
We did. We looked around. We asked everyone. And I would say that it's 2-1 for people that are getting black versus white. It's a little more than 2-1 for people that are getting Wi-Fi only.
Wow, that's big. It's like 18% versus 8%.
Yeah, a little bit more than 2-1.
Yeah.
And for the 16 gig to the 32 to
Oh,
the
wait,
64,
hold on. Sorry, Georgia. Because we split it out, AT&T and Verizon. So it's 18% are getting Wi-Fi only. About 7.5% are getting AT&T LTE. And about 6.5% are getting Verizon LTE, which is interesting.
Right.
So
Right,
I thought Verizon would kill with that just because they have such better coverage.
And 16, 32, and 64, it is 8% for 16, 11% for 32, and 13% for 64, which is
Wow.
actually a little shocking to me. I did not think that many people would, decide to get 64.
So traditionally, the cheapest model and the most expensive model sell the best. I don't know why that is, but tons of people just want the cheapest iPad, and a lot of people figure they might as well go all out.
Right, or they may choose to watch a lot of movies on their iPad.
Yeah.
So, they want to store and keep them.
You know what I say, go big or go Kindle.
But you're not going big. Are you going big?
Yeah, I'm thinking about 64.
Thinking about 64, really?
Yeah.
And how much, what do you have right now?
I have 16 because the first generation was 64, but the second one got stolen. I don't remember if it was 32 or 64. I think it was 32.
Yes. My apologies.
And I replaced it with a 16 just because it was cheap while I was waiting for the 3 to come out.
Right. Okay. Well, I was going to ask how much you've used of that, but...
Yeah, well, mine is full. The 16 one is full. I tried to install iPhoto and it was out of room, so I'm not happy with 16.
Yeah, okay, so that scares me away from 16,
yeah.
That in itself. Yeah. Especially if they're going to have a whole bunch of new applications that I already play that are upgraded for the Retina display. And yeah, is that going to be a big issue for people, Seth? Because there's already some that are already raring to go.
Is it going to be a big issue for me?
Yeah.
Is it going to make your eyes bleed if you see a non-Retina app on your beautiful Retina
iPad? Be upset if you see that some game that you enjoy has decided not to upgrade to Retina. Like, if I'm on Retina, I want to see everything in Retina.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. But I'm hoping that it's not as slow an uptake as it was between the 3GS and the 4, because we've had a Retina display. People may have been planning for it. Some people definitely have been planning for it. I'm hoping that apps update really quickly and Apple's able to kind of push them through, because I do not want to see at that size big blurry blocky pixels,
chunky double fuzzy,
and crappy icons. I just don't want to see it. Like, there's gonna be growing pains because that's the way it is, but I just really hope it's not as long as that last transition.
We should point out, Georgia, that Apple released a ton of updates right after the event, and almost every one of their apps has already been updated for Retina. So all the iWork stuff, all the iLife stuff, even Apple Remote has been updated for Retina.
Well, okay. Can they charge more, or would you pay more for an app that you already have bought and then they make it in Retina?
No, they can't. No, there's no upgrade. I mean, they could release a whole new app, but there's no upgrades on the App Store, so there's no way to charge more for it. The biggest issue with Retina updates is if an app is a universal binary and they now have to include the two times size artwork in it. Because you remember, like, Apple did raise it. So this was pretty big news. Originally, there was a 10 megabyte download limit over wireless, not over Wi-Fi, but over 3G. You couldn't download anything over 10 megabytes, and that got lifted to 20 megabytes. And now they've lifted it again to 50 megabytes. But some apps might hit 60 or more just because they include Retina graphics now, which means that if you're out and about, you can't impulse buy them on your iPad anymore. You have to wait till you get onto a Wi-Fi network. It's probably not as big a deal for an iPad as it is for an iPhone, but it's just one more little irksome issue.
Well, that worries me, just in that, like, I would pay. I don't care. It would not bother me if I'm going to see something I want it to be in Retina, and I wouldn't mind spending the money to that. But do you think, Seth, that some developers are going to choose not to put it up to Retina because of the amount of time and or effort that it would take to do that?
I think crappy developers might, but anybody who actually cares about their product is not going to think that. I mean, there will probably be tons of apps that don't. And there's a very simple reason for that. If you're a client and you have a third party develop your application, that contract will end at some point when that app is deployed. And, depending on how you've agreed to support it, if your contract ends and you maybe release one extra build and that's it, you're not going to go through the trouble of creating all these Retina graphics for a client who's not going to pay you for your time. So, a lot of companies contract out app development. They don't do it in-house. I mean, that's pretty much all of our work for the most part, mobile development. And that those apps may never get updated if they don't take a look at them and go, wow, these look really terrible. We need to, re-engage and get a new SOW and have, the app updated for, the new displays and things like that. So there's definitely going to be some that probably just are on a little island of looking fuzzy, but I would think independent developers and people who are actively engaged in updates are definitely going to be all over this. And it, like I said, hopefully it won't be as long.
Well, a lot of the people Seth and I follow on Twitter because of the Iterate podcast are designers, and we've been seeing them tweet about this all week. Like Mark Edwards from Bajango has been working on his apps. Graham Clark from Glasshouse Apps was talking about finishing the Retina for the early edition today. They already updated Tweetbot for Retina. One of the issues, though, also might be that Apple's going to get flooded with Retina apps they have to approve, and it might take them longer than usual to get all the approvals done. We'll see how they handle that.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to ask one more question about buying it. So, Seth, when it's out, will you jailbreak?
No, probably not. I at this point, the benefits of jailbreaking for my specific use cases have pretty much dried up, and I don't have the time or the inclination to tinker as much anymore. And iOS 5 hits most of the right notes for me. So unless there is something that is so mind-bendingly awesome that only a jailbreak can provide it, chances are I won't.
It makes cappuccino!
Yeah. That said,
Jailbreak.
I would probably jailbreak the iPad before the iPhone, because the iPhone is my tether to everything, work, personal life, etc. And the iPad is my, ancillary device that I can live without. I can't live without my phone, but I can live without the iPad. So
I'm the opposite.
I would say that's okay. I mean, we have to be different in some ways, right?
I just find the iPad, I do less with it and I have less demands, and iOS 5 satisfies all of them. But the thing is this, so Georgia, the iPhone 4S was introduced in October, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you bought yours when?
I got my iPhone 4S
like a month ago?
2 months ago, 1 month
because
ago?
that's how long it took them to jailbreak it, right? It took them 4 or 5 months to jailbreak it, and it might take.
Yes.
The iPad third generation is coming with a whole new processor again, and it might take them conceivably 4, 5, 6 months before you can even think about jailbreaking it. So if you're buying it now with the intention of jailbreaking it, you got to be patient.
I don't actually jailbreak my iPad though. It's not something that I usually do. It's just not my thing. Would I do it if it had Siri, fully, working version of Siri that I didn't have to worry about Apple coming and taking my iPad away from me? No. Not for my iPad. I don't need Siri for my iPad. So I don't see anything that is offered to me as well as Seth for a jailbreak for my iPad.
We're opposite of you, Seth.
That's okay. That's okay. I have a question though, actually, now that I think about the jailbreak on the iPad thing. One of the main reasons I used to jailbreak the iPad was because there were a couple of hacks to actually run iPad or iPhone apps scaled up to like full resolution. So you didn't get the pixel doubling. You actually got it running at that full resolution, and it was really crisp and really nice. Do you think the iPad will actually do that for Retina iPhone
so
apps?
Hold on, let's just go back for a second. So when the iPad first came out, Apple let you run iPhone apps, and you could choose to run them at double size. Right. When the iPhone 4 and 4S came out, Apple still shows you the low-res version of the iPhone app, and I think they do that to
big and chunky.
Yeah, and I think they do that to shame developers into making iPad-specific apps. But if you take a tiny 320 by 480 iPhone app and stretch that over a 2048 by 1536 Retina display, it's going to look horrendous. I hope Apple gives us Retina.
It's Retina love for all those retro people. It's super retro.
It's going to look like playing an Atari game without any of the joie de vivre.
It's 8-bit happiness.
Yeah, so I mean, I hope that Apple enables Retina mode for those apps.
Scale exactly the same.
Yeah,
it's going to be like playing Atari with Vaseline in your eyes.
Yes.
Oh,
we went to the same parties.
Brought back some trauma. So accessories. I would say don't buy any accessories until you buy your iPad, no matter what. But
oh yeah, you broke it down for us.
Yes. Well, I'll pretty much say any case that has some give is a little bit tight. You're not going to have to worry, and that case will still be good for it.
So if you have a bag, like if you literally have a backpack, your iPad 3 will fit in the same backpack as your iPad 2.
That's
the best case scenario, right? I mean, that when there's that much room.
No, because again, I take it out, and I'm not going to have to. I don't like that.
But if it's like a skin case, if it's like
be the same,
yeah,
the weatherproof cases are going to be the same. All things that you're going to use, for speakers, headsets, that you're not going to have to worry about that. Stylus is exactly the same. Keyboards, you're all good to go. It is really those very tight, hard cases that you might find a little bit of an issue with. I would assume most of them will fit, but there's some that are exceptionally tight fit on my iPad too. So it's going to be hard for the third
I think
version.
actually I'm going to take exception. I think that because like if you take like an OtterBox or like anything that they fit exactly around the
isn't hard all the way through.
No,
it
but
has a little bit of that squishy give on the inside, so that's not going to matter.
No, I think it will. I think the tapering is so different. They've made the tapering so different that it's not going to fit properly. Well, it's going to be I know it's only a millimeter difference, but I think the tape.
I would call shenanigans on that. I don't think that's true. I think that because of the way that it's give on the edges, it's actually on the edges of a lot of the OtterBox series. It's just the rubbery, goopy part, and that's not going to matter. And there's some cases like the Incipio Hive, which is actually a little bit
floppy
loose on my iPad too, and that might actually be a better fit on the.
Well, why don't we try and test them this weekend? We'll do a whole bunch of case tests.
That sounds awesome. Let's see what cases will fit.
We should also point out that on Apple's site, they do not list the iPad 2 charger as being iPad 3 compatible. And the iPad 3, we know it's got a 45-watt battery and not a 42-watt, not a 25-watt battery. So it's possible that charger is not powerful enough for the new iPad.
Well, hopefully what they'll do is what they allow you to do with your iPhone charger and just charge it super slow. I really hope you don't plug it in and it just goes, this is not supported.
Yeah. But you might need the specific charging case. So I say that because there's a lot of charging docks out there, and they may just not have the juice to charge. Because this thing is powering a lot of stuff. I mean, this thing is a battery equivalent of a dwarf star right now.
This is like a car battery flattened out.
Well, someone was saying that like there doesn't take too many of these to actually make a car battery. It really is a powerful battery, and your iPhone charger is going to look at it and just scream.
Yeah, well, when they get the solar backing on these babies, then I can't wait. I have something that I would like to show off before we run out of time.
I'm shocked.
So I just put onto the back from Unusuals, and this is a backing. It's not a sticker. It's a permanent back.
You swapped the back plate?
Swap the back plate.
Wow.
So I took it off, and this is a new feature that's out by Unusuals, and it's 3D. And I don't know if you can see it, but
turn it a bit sideways.
Hit it to the light a little bit so that you can see that there's a 3D print on that. And you can do this with anything. I have it for a retro logo with kind of a wooden design, so it makes it look kind of antique.
I want that. Can I have that?
Sweet. But you can do it with anything. You can take a photo of your child. You could have, Steve Jobs on it.
Is that actually 3D printed?
Yes, it's actually 3D printed, hand pressed onto it. So it's all hand done. They do a great job with making sure that it looks exactly like it is. And it has a nice feel to it.
I'm impressed. I like it. Now you did the flat one before, right? So the difference between this one is it's not glass, it's and flat. This is actually a textured backing.
Yeah, and people are saying that it sounds expensive, and actually it's not. It's quite affordable. It costs a little bit more than you would for getting just the picture backing, which would be, you swap out your old backing just for this. Easy process to do. You can take a look at the video and we take a look. There's really just 2 screws that you have to take up, slide it off, put it back on. Does not void your warranty. At least that's what those from.
We're not saying that. They're saying that, just to be clear.
They've said it. I
don't know.
I haven't asked.
We're not warrantors.
And I actually have kept my backing so that if I had to bring my phone in, I would switch it back out and no one would ever know.
None the wiser.
Yeah, I kept the screws and everything, so it's all good. And it's a lot of fun to use, so you can do that for whatever you'd like. They also have clear backings and other things that you can do, so.
Nice. And the link will be in the show notes?
The link will be in the show notes.
And if people are curious, you can always find the show notes. I mean, it's
on my 4. I have both of my phones because, they don't know that I've upgraded since then, so they just sent it to me. And this is the
that's an important point because
version that they have made.
That's an important point. The iPhone, the original AT&T iPhone 4 has a different backplate from the Verizon iPhone 4 and the iPhone 4S. They're not cross-compatible.
It's slightly different, and no, it won't fit. And this is the prototype. This is the first version that they've made.
Oh, you're such a diva.
Awesome. And it will be I'm a little bit of a brat. And it will be a little bit more 3D because this is, I think I have 4 layers and they'll do up to 7. So it will be double the 3Dness. And cool. A really wonderful gift for someone that you care about.
Gift hell. I'm getting it for me. Screw gift.
True. Get it for yourself and get something sweet. You should get the iMore logo done.
Okay. I'm on it. Yep.
And
Done.
yes, this actually fits still in cases. I've used it for everything else, so you don't have to worry. So you have this. We put it on the SP SPG
SGP.
SGP. Sorry, I keep on thinking that, and I'm thinking like George St. Pierre. Like it's just horrible. Anyways,
It's GPS.
I know. We put the linear case on it, and it was red. It looked stunning. Very
Nice.
sick.
Nice. Cool. You got anything else for us? You posted a bunch of announcements for iPad 3 stuff, and we're going to be looking at a ton of iPad 3 accessories in the coming month. They're not all out yet.
No, we'll be looking at accessories, what you can do with it. How people are enjoying it. We'll be also there in line and talking to people there, so you can follow us on the day of to see what everyone else is going through. Those that lined up, how was the experience? And let us know, those that bought it online, was that great, or do you feel, did it show up on time, or did you have to wait longer?
Yeah. UPS and FedEx are not going to be happy drivers tomorrow.
No, and actually last year when I bought my, make sure that if you buy it and you hang around in the store for a while, be careful. Actually, I had my iPhone 4 almost stolen from me right underneath my eyes. She just kind of moved my bag over just a little, and put her arm onto it. And I said, wait a second, that's my bag. So be careful.
Yes, line up safe. Seth, you're not lining up, are you? You're having it delivered?
No, I ordered from my trip last week because I just needed to have it. I didn't want to even take a chance.
Will you keep us informed? Let us know when it arrives?
Oh, please. I'm going to be freaking out audibly on Twitter and posting pictures as soon as I get it. Yeah.
Okay, nice. Awesome.
And Brad from the chat room is so excited that he's actually almost having a panic attack about it all.
Yeah, there are people who are like, it's only 2 days, the longest week ever. And people love their Apple gear, man.
Yeah, Georgia, speaking of being excited, it went by kind of quick in the chat earlier, but I wanted to call your attention to this. Somebody posted that Josh Topolsky in his reviews said that the new iPad has the loudest speakers of any tablet he's used.
You are kidding me.
No, it went by quick, and you were talking, so I made a note of it, but I also made a mental note to bring it up before we finished.
Well, she's going to test that. She's not going to take anyone's word for it. Georgia's going to put it to a test.
Stoked.
I hope for your case that he is correct.
I do too. He's usually very good about that stuff.
I'm going to be sending him an angry tweet.
You got my hopes up, Joshua Topolsky.
Yeah, you and I, it's on.
Yeah, no, that is going to be fantastic.
Yes, I guess we're going to have to find a decibel app so we can actually test it out.
I also want to point out Phil Nickinson from Android Central was in the chat room earlier, and he insists that the hysteria that comes before a Motorola tablet launch is every bit the same as an iPad.
Oh, he's still in the chat room.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I want to say the funniest thing, it's just kind of an aside, but it's hilarious. So I review all kinds of different things, and when I see things on Kickstarter or anything else that I think is going to be cool, our readers would be interested about, I post on it. So I ended up looking on Kickstarter, and someone was posting a Geiger counter that fits in to your iPhone. And
no way.
I did. Oh yeah, it's upstairs actually, but I'll show the little.
Could it pick up the gamma radiation coming from Seth right now?
Yeah. So this is what the app looks like. And it's called Pocket Geiger. This is the Pocket Geiger Pro. I got the
Of course
Pro
it is.
Because, if Seth is radioactive, I want to know. If he's going to Hulk out, I need to know beforehand so I can get out of here. So I hooked this baby on and I ran it. Now, interestingly enough, there's no radioactive activity around my house.
Did you try scraping the luminescence off of 1 million pocket watches?
I thought about putting it near it. I don't know if I want to know. But what I was saying to myself is, how am I ever going to actually test this out if it works?
Go to an X-ray machine or something. Know. Yeah.
I don't want my phone.
Go to your old high school.
Yeah, that's asbestos. It doesn't count.
Okay.
So I just thought to myself after, I said, what am I doing? Why would I even want to get something?
Hey, we have beaches here. We could go and see if our lakes glow. Like, I want to know why our lakes glow at night. Is it to make it convenient, or are they radioactive? We'll go find out.
Yes, there was actually, Brad says there is radiation all around us. That is true, but I have no means of checking how much that actually is. I'll be honest, there was actually a small rating, and I'm like, one is I don't know enough about radiation to know if that would be wary. And how would I ever check it out? There's no control group for this.
We're going to test it. That's going to be awesome. I can't wait.
I have to go to one of the universities to see if they have something that's an actual Geiger counter
I
and
can't
tell
wait.
the difference.
Okay.
But I just thought it was really funny because as I'm doing it, I'm going, how do I know?
All right, we're gonna do an iMore TV
awesome,
or something.
And it's a project, by the way, for people that live near radioactive places in the world. So I think it's a great idea. But
Anywhere in New Jersey, she's saying, Seth.
Oh, come on.
Japan, actually.
Guys.
Oh, please. Do you think whatever accident turned you into who you are left no repercussions in your area?
There's all kinds of evidence and fallout all over.
That Simpsons fish has 3 eyes, Seth. I've seen it.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, so it should be a fun day tomorrow. We're going to just keep your browsers locked on iMore, keep your Twitter locked on @iMore, your Facebook on on facebook.com/iMorecom, and we're going to it's like the Oscars and the Super Bowl all rolled into one for gadget lovers. It's the spring event.
Well, not tomorrow really, Friday.
Well, I'm lining up tomorrow at midnight, so.
Okay.
Yeah. And I just hope that Seth and George aren't in the same dress because that would be awkward.
I'm wearing the red this time, Seth.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, people in the chat room are freaking out. Tomorrow, I am lining up tomorrow. I don't know when they're lining up. I am not taking any chances. I got there at midnight last year, and there was already 20 people in line. That's not happening this year.
What would be the funniest thing would be that if you line up, Rene, and still don't get an iPad.
Oh, stop it. That would not be funny.
Man.
I'm getting an iPad. I'll be like that old lady who just hits people with a cane and takes it.
And when are we're going to have them. When's that lineup? So you head down to with Rene, and he'll be there giving out the shirts at 12. So,
and we might, I say might, we're not sure yet, but we might do a giveaway for people in the forums, people who are sharing their pictures and line comments with us in the forums. We might give away a bunch of shirts there too. So if you can't join us, you might be able to get one for free anyway.
I love it. I love the design of the shirt. It's stunning. It's really cool.
Yeah. Whee!
There, that's just for Sarah.
Nice. All right, cool. Awesome, Georgia. Can't wait.
Well, I think that is it. We have pretty much come to an end. I would like to say thank you so much, Seth, for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. Pleasure as always. Very exciting.
And how do the stalkers reach you, Seth?
Anyone who wants to invade my personal space online can follow me on Twitter at Seth Clifford. You can see me on the iMore Show and on Iterate with Rene and Mark Edwards of Bajango. And, well, actually, you can't see Iterate. You can just listen to it. And if you'd like to see some of our work and the apps and sites that we do, please visit our website. It's nfidm.com. We're Nickelfish.
Awesome. And Rene, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And how do they reach you?
You can find me at Rene Ritchie. You can find me all over the iMore forums, forums.imore.com, or on the main site, imore.com. Or Mobile Nations. You can hang out there too. I love all my gadgets.
That you do. And lining up at 12 midnight, that shows how much you really do love it. And you can find me on Twitter at GeorgiaTIPB. Yes, I know I have not changed it.
It's retro. I love it. It's like the 6-color Apple logo.
It's like the background. Exactly. It's like my logo. That's how I roll.
Yeah.
And you can also find me on the website, www.imore.com. And you can reach all of us on Twitter at iMore. And you can also email us at podcast@imore.com. And please, 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 please leave a comment on the website when the show goes live. You can also, we're here every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific. I was going to say also on Sunday nights, but we're not. So I kind of had to cut that one.
You're going to make me cry.
I know. I'm sorry, everyone. We're here every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. And you can reach us at www.imore.com/live. And you really should come live and watch because it's so much more fun. If you haven't already, please subscribe to iTunes. Please, 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 please.
You want to give away some t-shirts after the show?
I would love to. I think that our people on the chat room so deserve it.
Let's do it.
Make the show so much fun.
Well, you come here live, we give you stuff sometimes.
Yeah, why not? Come here live. We give away all kinds of stuff. And I'd like to say thanks to the Tippy. iMore, iPhone accessory store for sponsoring the podcast. And for all those that are live, this is why you should have been live. You're going to get some of the coolest shirts that we've made. This is my favorite shirt so far.
Nice. All right, guys. See you in the lineup.
Bye, everyone. Let us know about your experience.
Phil!
No comment.
Hang on, I'm going to put up some video for you.
So here's my one question, and I'm sorry if you guys have answered it yet, but I've been reading through. Ooh.
What?
Oh wait, no, that's me. Sorry, I was like, ooh, maybe the echo was me last week, but I had sound
black,
on.
Phil, black.
No, I had sound on for you guys. So my question is, I've been reading through the reviews tonight, and I kind of half-assed read them, right? But we all hear about how awesome the Retina display is, and of course it is, right? I mean, how could it not be? What about the apps that have been 2x'd, or what do you guys call it?
Oh, you mean like the iPhone apps?
Yeah, that have been scaled up.
We're wondering because Apple hasn't.
It's called 8-bit.
Yeah, no, but Apple hasn't done Retina upscaling yet. They've been doing the upscaling of the original app, the 420 by 320, the 480 by 321. That's going to look like ass if they don't fix that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't do math, and I refuse to try to do the math on this stuff. And every time you guys talk about the math, I just zone out. All I know is, like, that is the one most disappointing thing to me on the iPhone side. Like, even Android does that better. And the Android, tablet experience still leaves a lot to be desired. But when I see, an otherwise really good iPhone app have to get scaled up like that, it's just, is that going to look worse?
I think Apple does that on purpose to punish developers who don't make iPad versions of their apps.
And there's something to be said for that. Absolutely. I mean, that would not necessarily be a bad thing.
Like Facebook for years.
Right, exactly.
All apps are going to look like little 8-bit games if they don't choose to put it up Retina, except for one, which will be Minecraft. It'll look exactly the same.
Why does this look so horrible?
I opened that app. I was like, oh, this looks horrible. No, that's the way it's supposed to look. I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
I've said it before. I mean, I'm not going to go out and buy a new iPad myself. And, the company... Yet. Well, the company bought the last one that we have. So we've got an iPad 2 here. So when I start comparing things to the iPad 2, am I going to get yelled at?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I can't ask Seth.
But you get yelled at anyway, Phil.
That's true. I'm okay with that.
Seth, did we bother you about not upgrading your iPad?
So, let's be clear. We didn't bother me. You bothered me.
Well, but this is a fair point, and Seth and I have talked. I think Phil and I agree on this, and we've talked about it before. Is that like a lot of times specs matter? They're important, but they don't matter as much as the experience they give the end user. Like exactly. A great dual core tablet and a great quad core tablet, my mom won't know the difference.
And that's the difference. That is the number one difference between Android tablets and the iPad is the experience. I mean, the specs, if you look at the specs on paper, it should be much more even than it really is in real life. And I don't know why. I have no idea why.
No one does.
I'm not a developer.
It really all depends on how good your vision is.
Well, then there's that.
Terrific vision. It's going to matter.
My eyes went bad about 2001. I don't know. I'm excited.
So that seeing eye dog will be using your iPad for you. But
you have Retina level displays coming. I mean, ASUS has announced, what is it, 1200?
It's like 12 by 19 or something. I forget exactly what it is.
But it was at least 1200p. I mean, there was a 1080p one and a 1200p one, which is at that size. That's not bad.
That ASUS Infinity 900.
We're going to have 1080p stuff in our... I mean, let's stop and think about that for a minute. Our 50-inch TVs are now going to be less pixel dense than our freaking tablets.
Well, no. See, look. Apple did an excellent job, I think, selling that line to all the reviewers. Either that or everybody picked up on it on their own, but I think Apple did a really nice job selling that. All right, so the Asus Transformer Pad Infinity 700 is 1920 by 1200.
Crazy.
So that's not bad. In fact, when we saw that, and I haven't seen it yet. I think Alex played with it at MWC. I mean, so that sounds really good, right? I mean, obviously it's less than the new iPad, but again, when you're comparing resolutions between tablets and TVs, you're not standing 6 inches away from your TV unless you're one of my children.
No, absolutely. Well, TV at 10 feet, you're much more forgiving of resolution. But I'm just talking about in terms of the technology it requires to put that many pixels in a tiny panel.
Well, sure, but a TV with a 50-inch, diagonal resolution also has a lot more space to spread out that heat.
Yeah.
I don't know about processing of TV pixels.
Well, the iPad's been like the iPhone. My iPhone gets hot. My iPad, I don't remember it ever getting hot.
Yeah, my phone
gets hot. My first gen iPad Yeah, nothing in comparison to my
Like your laptop
Matrix
gets
Pro
hot.
that I had. Yeah, that used to cook.
Yeah, it's
That used to
interesting.
cook, it's true.
I think it's that the ARM processor. That's one thing I'm interested about, Phil. When they finally put Android like shipping on Intel processors, whether we're going to feel the same kind of pain we feel on Intel on desktops and laptops.
I'm real curious about the LTE stuff that we're hearing. I mean, I just can't imagine the battery tech in the iPad is that different, or that the radio tech is that different. I mean, something's got to be going on. I really do think it's probably when you're using a battery that's just that large.
Yeah.
You kind of tend to forget or just not notice. And I'm really curious to see the difference between AT&T and Verizon. I don't have AT&T LTE yet.
Or you mentioned the handoff, because a lot of people have had trouble with the handoff between 4G, 3G, and back.
Yes. So that was the big deal when, I mean, LTE is a year old. I've been using it for 15 months now, and the handoff was just horrible. If you jumped from 4G down to 3G, it would take 2 minutes to reconnect. And I've been using it on phones and as well as a laptop stick. And the laptop stick, like a couple times in the beginning, you had to restart. You had to reboot your computer to get it to reconnect. It was horrible. I mean, so that's a big deal. And we've come a long way since then. Verizon's come a long way as well. But I just worry when you see these initial reviews and, I don't know if Verizon has a whole separate channel set aside for this. I tell you, that wouldn't surprise me at all, especially for week 1.
Well, you keep posting on Android Central if Verizon's gone. Like, how's your LTE date on Verizon today? Because it's not working for me.
And look, we don't post every time we get a bunch of reports of somebody saying it's down, because that's just ridiculous. When we get enough that it feels like really something's up, then I'll say something. But yeah, I mean, it's your meal ticket, and it's gone down nationwide for that many people that many times since the first of the year. I mean, it's really given me pause in buying a new Verizon phone, and I'm still using. Where's my Thunderbolt?
Because it reminds me of this talk I had with a network engineer before the iPhone came out, and came to that network, and he's like, "Yeah, BlackBerry really hits our network like a locomotive." I'm like, dude, you have not seen anything yet. When you get 10 million iPhones on that thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's sipping water from a fire hose at that point.
Yes. So I'll be interested to see how Verizon's LTE network holds up. If they sell 1 million Verizon iPads in short order, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see.
I'm really curious to see what happens in Android tablet space the rest of the year, especially with things I've heard, just the direction Android's going to go, and nothing official. But got a lot of catching up to do, and I'm going to have a hard time saying that out loud anywhere near Android people. Well,
Andy Rubin said you're doubling down, right?
Well, he's been saying that for a while, and I know people have been giving him a hard time about that, Gruber. But they need to do something. I mean, it's just not there, and it hasn't been there yet. And I like, as much as I like a lot of the Android tablets that have been coming out, it's just experience-wise, just not anywhere near the same ballpark. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think it's also the use case, because Georgia made that point when she tried the Galaxy Nexus versus the Samsung Galaxy S2. It's that she preferred the more user-friendly interface that TouchWiz was. And I think my mom loves the iPad because it's so simple. I think a Galaxy Tab would be too much of a desktop to her.
Well, and see, here's the other thing. Michael in the chat room says, Phil, they said at MWC it looked like Samsung gave up. I tell you what, I was at MWC. I was there. Nobody gave up on anything. I mean, you have different release schedules for stuff, and I get that, and I understand that. But
capacity doesn't equal effort.
Exactly. And actually, I like a lot of what Samsung has done with the Galaxy Note 10.1, as much as we all kind of looked at it and said, really? But the way the software and the pen works, and it all works together really well, I think they did a nice job with that. And it's going to be interesting to see where they go with that. But
it's
again,
more like a Wacom pen, right? People think it's just a stylus, like an iPad stylus, but It's not.
Yeah, no. It really does so much more. And using iPod, using Photoshop Touch on it was really nice. I mean, not unlike what you'll get on the iPad. Again, it won't be as good as the iPad, but that's for different reasons.
Well, the crazy thing too is that they announced, this is my only pet peeve with Android, because I'm a gadget guy. They announce something at CES or at MWC and I want it. And Apple's like, we're announcing the iPad 3. It's shipping in 9 days. It's going to be in 12 countries in 9 days. It's going to be in 30 countries in 14 days.
Exactly.
And I got to wait months for my freaking Transformer Megatron.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of a single phone or tablet that was announced at MWC that you can get yet, and I don't think I can't think of anything. ACC is going to be one of the first out of the gate with the quad-core phones, but even then, we're waiting. So, I don't know.
You can bug Phil about
I
not
want
having
a phone
stuff.
that'll cook with the heat of the sun.
All right, kids, I'm going to go. Thanks.
All right. Good night, Phil.
right,
Thanks
man.
for dropping in. We'll make
Bye,
you the
Phil.
bonus part of the podcast.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Later, guys.
If
Later.
my phone
See ya.
doesn't melt a Terminator, it's not hot enough.